by George Saunders, and it's called Escape from Spiderhead. 1. Drip on, Abney said over the PA. What's in it? I said. Hilarious, he said. Acknowledge, I said. Amnesty used his remote, my Mobipack word, so the interior garden looked really nice. Everything seemed super clear. I said out loud, as I was supposed to, what I was feeling. Garden looks nice, I said, super clear. Amnesty said, Jeff, how about we pep up those language centers? Sure, I said. Drip on, he said. Acknowledge, I said. He added some verbaloose into the drip, and soon I was feeling the same things, but saying them better. The garden still looked nice. It's like the bushes were so tight-seeming and the sun made everything stand out. It's like any moment you expected some Victorians to wander in with their cups of tea. It was as if the garden had become a sort of embodiment of the domestic dreams forever intrinsic in human consciousness. It was as if I could suddenly discern in this contemporary vignette the ancient corollary through which Plato and some of his contemporaries might have strolled. To wit, I was sensing the eternal in the ephemeral. I was pleasantly engaged in these thoughts until the verbaloose began to wane, at which point the garden just looked nice again. It was something about the bushes and whatnot. Made you just want to lay out their catch rays and think your happy thoughts, if you get what I mean. Then whatever else was in the drip wore off, and I didn't feel much about the garden one way or the other. My mouth was dry, though. My gut had that post-verbaloose feel to it. What's going to be cool about that one, Abney said. You say a guy has to stay up late guarding a perimeter, or is at school waiting for his kid and gets bored. There's some nature nearby. Or say a park ranger has to work a double shift. That will be cool, I said. That's ED 763, he said. We're thinking of calling it Nature Glide, or maybe Earth Admire. Those are both good, I said. Thanks for your help, Jeff, he said, which is what he always said. Only 1,000,000 years to go, I said, which is what I always said. Then he said, exit the interior garden now, Jeff. Head over to small workroom 2. 2. In small workroom 2, they said to this pale, tall girl. What do you think? Amnesty said over the PA. Me, I said, or her? Both, Amnesty said. Pretty good, I said. Fine, you know, she said. Normal. Amnesty asked us to rate each other more quantifiably, as per pretty, as per sexy. It appeared we liked each other about average, i.e. no big attraction or revulsion either way. Amnesty said, Jeff, drip on. Acknowledge, I said. Heather, drip on, he said. Acknowledge, Heather said. Then we looked at each other like what happens next. What happened next was Heather soon looked super good. I could tell she thought the same of me. Came on so sudden we were like laughing. How could we not have seen it? How cute the other one was. Luckily there was a couch in the workroom. Felt like our drip had, in addition to whatever they were testing, some ED 556 in it, which lowers your shame level to like nil. Because soon there on the couch, off we went. It was super hot between us. Not merely in a horn dog way. Hot, yes. Also just right. Like if you dreamed of a certain girl all your life, all of a sudden there she was, in your domain. Jeff, Amnesty said, I'd like your permission to pep up your language centers. Go for it, I said, under her now. Drip on, he said. Acknowledge, I said. Me too, Heather said. You got it, Amnesty said with a laugh. Drip on. Acknowledge, she said, all breathless. Soon experiencing the benefits of the flowing verbaloose in our drips, we're not only screwing really well, but also talking pretty great. Like instead of just saying the sex-type things we had been saying, such as wow and oh God and hell yes and so forth, we now began freestyling to re-our sensations and thoughts and elevated diction, 80% increased vocab, well-articulated thoughts being recorded for later analysis. For me, the feeling was approximately astonishment at the dawning realization that this woman was being created in real time, directly from my own mind, for my deepest longings. Finally, after all these years, was my thought, I'd found the precise arrangement of body, face, mind that personified all that was desirable. The taste of her mouth, look of the halo of blondish hair spread out around her cherubic yet naughty-looking face. She was beneath me now, legs way up. Even, not to be crude or dishonor the exalted feelings I was experiencing, the sensations her vagina was producing along the length of my thrusting penis, precisely those I'd always hungered for, though I'd never, before this instant, realized that I so ardently hungered for them. That is to say, a desire would arise, and concurrently the satisfaction of that desire would also arise. It was as if A, I longed for certain heretofore untasted taste until B, said longing became nearly unbearable, which time C, found a morsel of food with that exact taste already in my mouth, perfectly satisfying my longing. Every utterance, every adjustment of posture bespoke the same thing. We had known each other forever, were soulmates, had met and loved in numerous preceding lifetimes, and would meet and love in many subsequent lifetimes, always with the same transcendently stupefying results. Then there came a hard-to-describe but very real drifting off into a number of sequential reveries, might best be described as a type of non-narrative mind scenery, i.e. a series of vague mental images of places I had never been, a certain pine-packed valley and high white mountains, a chalet-type house in a cul-de-sac, the yard of which was overgrown with wide, stunted trees, each of which triggered a deep sentimental longing that coalesced into and was soon reduced to one central longing, i.e. an intense longing for Heather and Heather alone. This mind scenery phenomenon was stronger than during our third bout of love-making. Apparently amnesty had included some vivistiff in my drip. Afterward, our protestations of love poured forth simultaneously, linguistically complex and metaphorically rich. I dare say we'd become poets. We were allowed to lie there, limbs intermingled, for nearly an hour. It was bliss. It was perfection. It was that impossible thing, happiness that does not wilt to reveal the thin shoots of some new desire rising from within it. We cuddled with a fierceness focus that revivaled the fierceness focus with which we had screwed. There's nothing less about cuddling vis-a-vis screwing, is what I mean to say. We're all over each other in the super-friendly way of puppies, or spouses meeting for the first time after one of them has undergone a close brush with death. Everything seemed moist, permeable, sayable. Then something in the drip began to wane. I think amnesty had shut off the verbaloose, also the shame reducer. Basically, everything began to dwindle. Suddenly we felt shy, but still loving. We began the process of trying to talk after a verbaloose, always awkward. And I could see in her eyes that she was still feeling love for me. I was definitely still feeling love for her. Well, why not? We just screwed 3 times. Why do you think they call it making love? This is what we had just made 3 times. Love. And amnesty said, drip on. We'd kind of forgotten he was even there, behind his one-way mirror. I said, do we have to? We're really liking this right now. We're just going to try to get you guys back to baseline, he said. We've got more to do today. Shit, I said. Rats, she said. Drip on, he said. Acknowledge, we said. Soon something began to change. I mean, she was fine, a handsome, pale girl, but nothing special. I would see that she felt the same about me, i.e., what had all that fuss been about just now? Why weren't we dressed? We real quick got dressed. Kind of embarrassing. Did I love her? Did she love me? Ha! No. And it was time for her to go. We shook hands. Out she went. Lunch came in, on a tray. Spaghetti with chicken chunks. Man, was I hungry. I spent all lunchtime thinking it was weird. I had the memory of screwing Heather, the memory of having felt the things I'd felt for her, the memory of having said the things I'd said to her. My throat was like raw from how much I'd said and how fast I'd felt compelled to say it. But in terms of feeling, I basically had nada left. Just a hot face and some shame at having screwed 3 times in front of amnesty. 3. After lunch came in another girl, about equally so-so. Dark hair, average built, nothing special, just like upon first entry. Heather had been nothing special. This is Rachel, amnesty said to the PA. This is Jeff. Hi, Rachel, I said. Hi, Jeff, she said. Drip on, amnesty said. We acknowledged. Something seemed very familiar about the way I now began feeling. Suddenly Rachel looked super good. Amnesty requested permission to pep up our language centers via verbaloose. We acknowledged. Soon we too were screwing like bunnies. Soon we too were talking like articulate maniacs of our love. Once again, certain sensations were arising to meet my concurrently arising desperate hunger for just those sensations. Soon my memory of the perfect taste of Heather's mouth was being overwritten by the current taste of Rachel's mouth, so much more the taste I now desired. I was feeling unprecedented emotions, even though those unprecedented emotions were, I discerned somewhat in my consciousness, exactly the same emotions I'd felt earlier for that now unworthy-seeming vessel Heather. Rachel was, I mean to say, it. Her lithe waist, her voice, her hungry mouth, hands, loins, they were all it. I just loved Rachel so much. Then came the sequential geographic reveries, see above. Same pine-packed valley, same chalet-looking house. accompanied by that same longing for place, transmuting into a longing for, this time, Rachel. While continuing to enact a level of sexual strenuousness that caused what I would describe as a gradual tightening, chest-located sweetness, rubber band to both connect us and compel us onward, we whispered feverishly, precisely, poetically, about how long we felt we had known each other, i.e. forever. Again, the total number of times we made love was 3. Then, like before, came the dwindling. Our talking became less excellent. Words were fewer, our sentences shorter. Still, I loved her, loved Rachel. Everything about her just seemed perfect. Her cheek mole, her black hair, little butt squirm she now and then did, as if to say, was that ever good? Drip on, Amnesty said. We're going to try to get you both back to baseline. Acknowledge, she said. Well, hold on, I said. Jeff, Amnesty said, irritated, as if trying to remind me that I was here not by choice, because I had done my crime and was in the process of doing my time. Acknowledge, I said, and gave Rachel one last look of love, knowing, for she did not yet know, that this would be the last look of love I would be giving her. So she was merely fine to me, and I merely fine to her. She looked, as had Heather, embarrassed, as in, what was up with that just now? Why did I just go so overboard with Mr. Average here? Did I love her? Or her me? No. When it was time for her to go, we shook hands. The place where my mobile pack was surgically joined to my lower back was sore from our positional changes. Plus, I was very tired. Plus, I was feeling so sad. Why sad? Was I not a dude? And I just screwed 2 different girls for a total of 6 times in one day? Still, honestly, I felt sadder than sad. Guess it was sad that love was not real. Or not all that real, anyway. I guess I was sad that love could feel so real and the next minute be gone, all because of something Amnesty was doing. 4. After snack, Amnesty called me into control. Control being like the head of a spider, with its various legs being our workrooms. Sometimes we were called upon to work alongside Amnesty in the head of the spider, or as we termed it, the Spiderhead. Sir, he said, look into large workroom 1. Large workroom 1 was Heather and Rachel side by side. Recognize them? He said. Ha, I said. Now, Amnesty said, I'm going to present you with a choice, Jeff. This is what we're playing at here. See this remote? Let's say you can hit this button, and Rachel gets some Darkenflocks. Or you can hit this button, and Heather gets the Darkenflocks. See? You choose. They've got Darkenflocks in their mobile packs, I said. We've all got Darkenflocks in your mobile packs, dummy, Amnesty said affectionately. Verlaine put it there Wednesday, in anticipation of this very study. Well, that made me nervous. Imagine the worst you've ever felt times 10. It does not even come close to how bad you feel on Darkenflocks. This time it was administered to us in orientation briefly, for demo purposes, 1/3 the dose now selected on Amnesty's remote. I've never felt so terrible. All of us were just moaning, heads down, like, how could we ever have felt that life was worth living? I do not even like to think about that time. What's your decision, Jeff? Amnesty said. Is Rachel getting the Darkenflocks or Heather? I can't say, I said. You have to, he said. I can't, I said. It'll be like random. You feel your decision would be random, he said. Yes, I said. And that was true. I really didn't care. It's like if I put you in the Spiderhead and gave you the choice. Which of these 2 strangers would you like to send into the shadow of the valley of death? 10 seconds, Amnesty said. What we're testing for here is any residual fondness. It wasn't that I liked them both. I honestly felt completely neutral toward both. It was exactly as if I'd never seen, much less screwed, either one. It had really succeeded in taking me back to baseline, I guess I'm saying. But having once been Darkenfloxed, I just didn't want to do that to anyone. Even if I didn't like the person very much, even if I hated the person, I still wouldn't want to do it. 5 seconds, Amnesty said. I can't decide, I said. It's random. Truly random, he said. Okay, I'm giving the Darkenflocks to Heather. I just sat there. No, actually, he said, I'm giving it to Rachel. Just sat there. Jeff, he said, you have convinced me. It would to you be random. You truly have no preference. I can see that. Therefore, I don't have to do it. See what we just did, with your help, for the first time, via the ED 289-290 suite, which is what we've been testing today. I have to admit it, you were in love. Twice, right? Yes, I said. Very much in love, he said. Twice. I said yes, I said. But you just now expressed no preference, he said. Ergo, no trace of either of those great loves remains. You are totally cleansed. We brought you high, laid you low. Now here you sit. Same emotion-wise as before our testing ever began. That is powerful. That is killer. We've unlocked a mysterious eternal secret. What a fantastic game changer. Say someone can't love. Now he or she can. We can make him. Say someone loves too much, or loves someone deemed unsuitable by his or her caregiver. We can tone that shit right down. Say someone is blue because of true love. We step in, or his or her caregiver does. Blue no more. No longer, in terms of emotional controllability, are we ships adrift. No one is. We see a ship adrift, we climb aboard, install a rudder. Guide him or her toward love, or away from it. You say all you need is love. Look, here comes ED 289-290. Can we stop war? We'd sure as heck slow it down. Suddenly the soldiers on both sides start screwing. We're at low dosage, feeling super fond. Or say we have two rival dictators in a death grudge. Assuming ED 289-290 develops nicely in pill form, allow me to slip each dictator a Mickey. Soon their tongues are down each other's throats and doves of peace are pooping on their epaulets. Or depending on the dosage, they may just be hugging. And who helped us do that? You did. All this time, Rachel and Heather had just been sitting there in large workroom 1. That's it, gals, thanks, Amnesty said on the PA, and they left, neither knowing how close they had come to getting Darkenflocks out their wing-wangs. Verlaine took them out the back way, i.e. not through the Spiderhead, but via the back alley, which is not really an alley, just a carpeted hallway leading back to our domain cluster. Thanks, Jeff, Amnesty said. Think if you had the benefit of ED 289-290 on your fateful night? Tell the truth, I was getting kind of sick of him, always talking about my fateful night. I'd been sorry about it right away. Got sorry about it ever since. Was now so sorry about it that him rubbing it in my face did not make me one bit sorrier. Just made me think of him as being kind of a dick. Can I go to bed now? I said. Not yet, Amnesty said. There's hours to go before you sleep. And he sent me into small workroom 3, where some dude I didn't know was sitting. 5. Rogan, the dude said. Jeff, I said. What's up, he said. Not much, I said. We sat tensely for a long time, not talking. Maybe 10 minutes passed. We've got some rough customers in here. I noted that Rogan had a tattoo of a rat on his neck, a rat that had just been knifed and was crying. Even through its tears, it was knifing a smaller rat who just looked surprised. Finally, Amnesty came on the PA. That's it, guys. Thanks, he said. What the hell was that about? Rogan said. Good question, Rogan, I thought. Why had we both been left just sitting there? The same manner that Heather and Rachel had been left just sitting there. Then I had a hunch. To test my hunch, I did a sudden lurch into the Spiderhead, which Amnesty always made a point of not keeping locked to show how much he trusted and was unafraid of us. And guess who was in there? Hey, Jeff, Heather said. Jeff, get out, Amnesty said. Heather, did Mr. Amnesty just now make you decide which of us, me or Rogan, to give some Darkenflocks to? I said. Yes, Heather said. She must have been on some very talk because she spoke the truth in spite of Amnesty's withering, silencing gaze. Did you recently screw Rogan, Heather? I said, in addition to me, and also fall in love with him, as you did with me? Yes, she said. Heather, honestly, Amnesty said, put a sock in it. Heather looked around for a sock. Very talk makes one quite literal. Back in my domain, I did the math. Heather had screwed me 3 times. Heather probably also screwed Rogan 3 times, since in the name of design consistency, Amnesty would have given Rogan and me equal relative doses of Vivistiff. Yet speaking of design consistency, there was still one shoe to drop. If I knew Amnesty, always a stickler in terms of data symmetry, wouldn't Amnesty also need Rachel to decide who to Darkenflocks, i.e. me or Rogan? After a short break, my suspicions were confirmed. I found myself again sitting in small workroom 3 with Rogan. Again, we sat not talking for a long time. Mostly he picked at the smaller rat and tried to watch without him seeing. Then, like before, Amnesty came on the PA and said, That's it, guys, thanks. Let me guess, I said. Rachel's in there with you. Jeff, if you can't stop doing that, I swear, Amnesty said. And she just declined to Darkenflocks either me or Rogan, I said. Hi, Jeff, Rachel said. Hi, Rogan. Rogan, I said, did you by any chance screw Rachel earlier today? Pretty much, Rogan said. My mind was like reeling. Rachel had screwed me plus Rogan. Heather had screwed me plus Rogan. Everyone who had screwed anyone had fallen in love with that person, then out of it. What kind of crazy-ass project team was this? I mean, I've been on some crazy-ass project teams in my time, with as such as the one where the trip had something in it that made hearing music exquisite, hence when some Shostakovich was piped in, actual bats seemed to circle my domain, or the one where my legs became totally numb and yet I found I could still stand 15 straight hours at a fake cash register, miraculously suddenly able to do extremely hard long division problems in my mind. But all my crazy-ass project teams, this was by far the most crazy-assed. Could not help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. 6. Except today wasn't even over. I was again called into small workroom 3. I was sitting there when the unfamiliar guy came in. "I'm Keith," he said, rushing over to shake my hand. It was a tall southern drink of water, all teeth and wavy hair. "Jeff," I said. "Really nice meeting you," he said. Then we sat there not talking. Whenever I looked over at Keith, he would gleam his teeth at me and shake his head all awry as if to say, "Odd job of work, isn't it?" "Keith," I said, "do you by any chance know 2 chicks named Rachel and Heather?" "I sure as heck do," Keith said. Suddenly his teeth had a leering quality to it. "Did you by any chance have sex with both Rachel and Heather earlier today, 3 times each?" I said. "What are you, man, a dang psychic?" Keith said. "You're blowing my mind. I admit it." "Jeff, you're totally dwunking with our experimental design integrity," Amnesty said. "So either Rachel or Heather is sitting in the Spiderhead right now," I said, trying to decide. "Decide what?" Keith said. "Which of us to darken flocks," I said. "Eek," Keith said. Now his teeth looked scared. "Don't worry," I said. "She won't do it." "Who won't?" Keith said. "Whoever's in there," I said. "That's it, guys, thanks," Amnesty said. After a short break, Keith and I were once again brought into small workroom 3. Once again we waited, as this time Heather declined to darken flocks, either one of us. Back in my domain, I constructed a who had screwed whom chart, which went like this. Me, Heather, Heather, Rogan, Rogan, Keith, Rogan, Rachel, Heather, me. Amnesty came in. "Despite all your shenanigans," he said, "Rogan and Keith had exactly the same reaction as you did, and as Rachel and Heather did. None of you at the critical moment could decide whom to darken flocks, which is super. What does that mean? Why is it super? It means that ED 289, 290 is the real deal. It can make love, it can take love away. I'm almost inclined to start the naming process." "Those girls did it 9 times each today," I said. "Peace for all," he said. "Love inclined. You seem pissy. Are you pissy?" "Well, I feel a little jerked around," I said. "Do you feel jerked around because you still have feelings of love for one of the girls?" he said. "That would need to be noted. Anger, possessiveness, residual sexual longing?" "No," I said. "You honestly don't feel miffed that the girl for whom you felt love was then funked by 2 other guys, and not only that, she then felt exactly the same quantity of love for those guys as she had felt for you, or in the case of Rachel, was about to feel for you at the time she funked Rogan. I think it was Rogan. She may have funked Keith first, then you penultimately. I'm vague on the order of operations. I could look it up, but think deeply on this." I thought deeply on it. "Nothing," I said. "Well, it's a lot to sort through," he said. "Luckily it's night. One day is done. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you're feeling?" "My penis is sore," I said. "Well, no surprise there," he said. "Think how those girls must feel. I'll send Verlaine in with some cream." Soon Verlaine came in with some cream. "Hi, Verlaine," I said. "Hi, Jeff," he said. "Want to put this on yourself or you want me to do it?" "I'll do it," I said. "Cool," he said. I could tell he meant it. "Looks painful," he said. "It really is," I said. "Must have felt pretty good at the time, though," he said. His words seemed to be saying he was envious, but I could see in his eyes as they looked at my penis that he wasn't envious at all. But I slept the sleep of the dead, as they say. 7. Next morning, I was still asleep when Amnesty came on the PA. "Do you remember yesterday?" he said. "Yes," I said. And I asked which gal you'd like to see on the darker flocks, he said, and you said neither. "Yes," I said. "Well, that was good enough for me," he said. "Apparently not good enough for the protocol committee. Not good enough for the 3 horsemen of anality. Come in here. Let's get started. We're going to need to do a kind of confirmation trial. Oh, this is going to stink." I entered the Spiderhead. Sitting in small workroom 2 was Heather. "So this time," Amnesty said, "for the protocol committee, instead of me asking you which girl to give the darken flocks to, which the protocol felt was too subjective, I'm going to give this girl the darken flocks no matter what you say. Then see what you say. Like yesterday, we're going to put you on a drip of Verlaine. Verlaine, where are you? Are you there? What is it again? Do we have the project order?" "Verbalus veritas chat ease," Verlaine said over the PA. Right, Amnesty said. And did you refresh his MOBA pack? Are his quantities good? I did it, Verlaine said. I did it while he was sleeping. So I already told you I already did it. What about her? Amnesty said. Did you refresh her MOBA pack? Are her quantities good? You stood right there and watched me, Ray, Verlaine said. Jeff, sorry, Amnesty said to me. We're having a little tension in here today. Not an easy day ahead. I don't want you to darken Flock's Heather, I said. Interesting, he said. Is that because you love her? No, I said. I don't want you to darken Flock's anybody. I know what you mean, he said. That is so sweet. Then again, is this confirmation trial about what you want? Not so much. What it's about is us recording what you say as you observe Heather getting darker floxed. For 5 minutes. 5-minute trial. Here we go. Drip on. I did not say acknowledge. You should feel flattered, Amnesty said. Did we choose Rogan? Keith? No. We deemed your level of speaking more commensurate with our data needs. I did not say acknowledge. Why so protective of Heather? Amnesty said. One would always think you loved her. No, I said. Do you even know her story? He said. You don't. You legally can't. Does it involve whiskey, gangs, infanticide? I can't say. Can I imply, somewhat peripherally, that her past, violent and sordid, did not exactly include a dog named Lassie, a lot of family talks about the Bible, while Granny sat doing macrame, adjusting her posture because the quaint fireplace was so sizzling? Can I suggest that if you knew what I knew about Heather's past, making Heather briefly sad, nauseous, and or horrified might not seem like the worst idea in the world? No, I can't. All right, I said. You know me, he said. How many kids do I have? 5, I said. What are their names? He said. Mick, Todd, Karen, Lisa, Phoebe, I said. Am I a monster? He said. Do I remember birthdays around here? When a certain individual got athlete's foot on his groin on a Sunday, did a certain other individual drive over to Rexall, pick up a prescription, paying for it with his own personal money? That was a nice thing he'd done. Seemed kind of unprofessional to bring it up now. Jeff, Amnesty said. What do you want me to say here? Do you want me to say that your Fridays are at risk? I could easily say that. Which was cheap. My Fridays meant a lot to me, and he knew that. Fridays I got to Skype Mom. How long do we give you? Amnesty said. 5 minutes, I said. How about we make it 10, Amnesty said. Mom always looked heartsick when our time was up. It almost killed her when they arrested me. The trial had almost killed her. She'd spent her savings to get me out of real jail and in here. When I was a kid, she had long brown hair past her waist. During the trial, she cut it. Then it went gray. Now it's just a white poof about the size of a cap. Drip on, Amnesty said. Acknowledge, I said. Okay to pep up your language centers, he said. Fine, I said. Heather, hello, he said. Good morning, Heather said. Drip on, he said. Acknowledge, Heather said. Amnesty used his remote. The darker flock started flowing. Soon Heather was softly crying, and was up and pacing, and jaggedly crying, a little hysterical even. I don't like this, she said in a quaking voice. Then she threw up in the trash can. Speak, Jeff, Amnesty said to me. Speak a lot. Speak in detail. Let's make something useful of this, shall we? Everything in my drip felt grade A. Suddenly I was waxing poetic. I was waxing poetic, read what Heather was doing, waxing poetic in my feelings about what Heather was doing. Basically, what I was feeling was, every human is born of man and woman. Every human at birth is, or at least has the potential to be, beloved of his, her, mother, father. Thus, every human is worthy of love. As I watched Heather suffer, great tenderness suffused my body, tenderness hard to distinguish from a sort of vast existential nausea, to wit, why are such beautiful, beloved vessels made slave to so much pain? Heather presented as a bundle of pain receptors. Heather's mind was fluid and could be ruined by pain, by sadness. Why? Why was she made this way? Why so fragile? Poor child, I was thinking. Poor girl. Who loved you? Who loves you? Hang in there, Jeff, Amnesty said. Verlaine, what do you think? Any vestige of romantic love in Jeff's verbal commentary? I'd say no, Verlaine said over the PA. It's all just pretty much basic human feeling right there. Excellent, Amnesty said. Time remaining? 2 minutes, Verlaine said. I found what happened next very hard to watch. Under the influence of the verbaloosh, the Veritalk, and the chat-ease, I also found it impossible not to narrate. In each workroom was a couch, a desk, and a chair, all by design, impossible to disassemble. Heather now began disassembling her impossible-to-disassemble chair. Her face was a mask of rage. She drove her head into the wall. Like a wrathful prodigy, Heather, beloved of someone, managed in her great sadness-fueled rage to disassemble the chair while continuing to drive her head into the wall. Jesus, Verlaine said. Verlaine, buck up, Amnesty said. Jeff, stop crying. Contrary to what you might think, there's not much data in crime. Use your words. Don't make this in vain. I used my words. I spoke volumes, was precise. I described and re-described what I was feeling as I watched Heather do what she now began doing intently, most beautifully, to her face, head, with one of the chair legs. In his defense, Amnesty was not in such great shape himself. Breathing hard, cheeks candy red, he tapped the screen of his iMac non-stop with a pen, something he did when stressed. Time, he finally said, and cut the Darkenflocks off with his remote. Shit. Get in there, Verlaine. Hustle it. Verlaine hustled into the small workroom, too. Talk to me, Sammy, Amnesty said. Verlaine felt for Heather's pulse, then raised his hand, palms up, and then he looked like Jesus, except shocked instead of beatific. Also, he had his glasses up on top of his head. Are you kidding me? Amnesty said. What now? Verlaine said. What do I... Are you freaking kidding me? Amnesty said. Amnesty burst out of his chair, shoved me out of the way, and flew through the door into small workroom 2. 8. I returned to my domain. At 3, Verlaine came on the PA. Jeff, he said, please return to the Spiderhead. I returned to the Spiderhead. We're sorry you had to see that, Jeff, Amnesty said. That was unexpected, Verlaine said. Unexpected plus unfortunate, Amnesty said. I'm sorry I shoved you. Is she dead? I said. Well, she's not the best, Verlaine said. Look, Jeff, these things happen, Amnesty said. This is science. Science, we explore the unknown. It was unknown what 5 minutes on Darkenflocks would do to Heather. Now we know. The other thing we know, per Verlaine's assessment of your commentary, is that you really, for sure, do not harbor any residual romantic feelings for Heather. That's a big deal, Jeff. Beacon of hope in a sad time for all. Even as Heather was, so to speak, going down to the sea in her ship, he remained totally unwavering in terms of continuing to not romantically love her. My guess is Protcom's going to be like, wow, Utica's really leading the pack in terms of providing some mind-blowing new data on ED 289-290. It was quiet in the Spiderhead. Verlaine, go out, Amnesty said. Go do your bit. Make things ready. Verlaine went out. Do you think I liked that? Amnesty said. You didn't seem to, I said. Well, I didn't, Amnesty said. I hated it. I'm a person. I have feelings. Still, personal sadness aside, that was good. We did terrific overall. We all did terrific. Heather especially did terrific. I honor her. Let's see this thing through, shall we? Let's complete it. Complete the next portion of our confirmation trial. Into small workroom 4 came Rachel. 9. Are we going to Darkenflocks, Rachel, now? I said. Think, Jeff, Amnesty said. How can we know that you love neither Heather nor Rachel, if only we have data regarding your reaction to what just now happened to Heather? Use your noggin. You're not a scientist, but Lord knows you work around scientists all day. Drip on. I did not say acknowledge. What's the problem, Jeff? Amnesty said. I don't want to kill Rachel, I said. Well, who does? Amnesty said. Do I? Do you, Verlaine? No, Verlaine said over the PA. Jeff, maybe you're overthinking this, Amnesty said. Is it possible that Darkenflocks will kill Rachel? Sure. We have the Heather president. On the other hand, Rachel may be stronger. She seems a little larger. She's actually a little smaller, Verlaine said. Well, maybe she's tougher, Amnesty said. We're going to wait adjust her dosage, Verlaine said. So, thanks, Verlaine, Amnesty said. Thanks for clearing that up. Maybe show him the file, Verlaine said. Amnesty handed me Rachel's file. Verlaine came back in. Read it and weep, he said. Per Rachel's file, she had stolen jewelry from her mother, a car from her father, cash from her sister, statues from their church. She'd gone to jail for drugs. After 4 times in jail for drugs, she'd gone to rehab for drugs, then to rehab for prostitution, then to what they call rehab refresh. For people who've been in rehab so many times, they're basically immune. She must have been immune to the rehab refresh too, because after that came her biggie, a triple murder. Her dealer, the dealer's sister, the dealer's sister's boyfriend. Reading that made me feel a little funny that we'd screwed and I'd loved her. But I still didn't want to kill her. Jeff, Amnesty said, I know you've done a lot of work on this with Mrs. Lacey, on killing and so forth. This is not you. This is us. It's not even us, Verlaine said. It's science. The mandates of science, Amnesty said, plus the dictates. Sometimes science sucks, Verlaine said. On the one hand, Jeff, Amnesty said, a few moments of unpleasantness for Rachel, for Heather. Rachel, Verlaine said. A few minutes of unpleasantness for Rachel, Amnesty said. Years of relief for literally tens of thousands of underloving or overloving folks. Do the math, Jeff, Verlaine said. Being good in small ways is easy, Amnesty said. Doing the huge good things, that's harder. Drip on, Verlaine said. Jeff. I did not say acknowledge. Screw it. Enough, Amnesty said. Verlaine, what's the name of that one? One where I give him an order and he obeys it. Docile ride, Verlaine said. Is there docile ride in his MOBA pack? Amnesty said. There's docile ride in every MOBA pack, Verlaine said. Does he need to say acknowledge? Amnesty said. Docile ride is a class C, so Verlaine said. See, that to me makes 0 sense, Amnesty said. What good is an obedience drug if we need his permission to use it? We just need a waiver, Verlaine said. How long does that shit take? Verlaine said. Come on, make haste, Amnesty said, and they went out, leaving me alone in the Spiderhead. 10. It was sad. Give me a sad, defeated feeling to think that soon they'd be back and would docile ride me, and I'd say acknowledge, smiling agreeably the way a person smiles on docile ride, and the darkened flocks would flow into Rachel. I begin describing in that rapid, robotic way one describes on Verbaluse, Veritalk, Chat Ease, the things Rachel would say at this time, and begin doing to herself. So all I had to do to be a killer again was sit there and wait, which was a hard pill to swallow after my work with Mrs. Lacey. Violence finished, anger no more, she made me say over and over, and she had me do a detailed remembering, read my fateful night. I was 19. Mike Apple was 17. Both wasto. All night he'd been giving me grief. He was smaller, younger, less popular. Then we went out front of Frizzy's, rolling around on the ground. He was quick. He was mean. I was losing. I couldn't believe it. I was bigger, older, yet losing. Around us, watching, was basically everybody we knew, and he had me on my back. Someone laughed. Someone said, "Shit, poor Jeff." Nearby was a brick. I grabbed it, glanced Mike in the head with it, and then was on top of him. Mike gave. That is, there on his back, scalp bleeding, he gave by shooting me a certain look, like, dude, come on. We're not all that serious about this, are we? We were. I was. I don't even know why I did it. It was like with the drinking and the being a kid and the nearly losing, I'd been putting on a drip called, like, temper burst or something. Insta-rage. Life ruiner. Hey, guys, hello, Rachel said. What are we up to today? There was her fragile head, her undamaged face, one arm lifting a hand to scratch a cheek, legs bouncing with nerves, peasant skirt bouncing too, clogged feet crossed under the hem. Soon all that would just be a lump on the floor. I had to think. Why were they going to darken Flock's Rachel? So they could hear me describe it? If I wasn't here to describe it, they wouldn't do it. How could I make it so I wouldn't be here? I could leave. How could I leave? There's only one door out of the Spiderhead, which was auto-locked. On the other side was either Barry or Hans with that electric wand called the dis-stick. Could I wait until Amnesty came in, wonk him, try to race past Barry or Hans, make a break for the main door? Any weapons in the Spiderhead? No, just Amnesty's birthday mug, pair of running shoes, roll of breath mints, his remote. His remote? What a dope. This was supposed to be on his belt at all times. Otherwise, one of us might help ourselves to whatever we found via inventory directory in our MOBA packs, some Bon Viv, maybe some Bliss Time, some Speeder Up, some Darkened Flocks. Jesus, that was one way to leave. Scary, though. Just then, in small workroom 4, Rachel, I guess thinking the Spiderhead empty, got up and did this happy little shuffle, like she was got some cheerful farmer chick who just stepped outside to find the hick she was in love with, coming up the road with a calf under his arm or whatever. Why was she dancing? No reason. Just alive, I guess. Time was short. The remote was well labeled. Good old Verlaine. I used it, dropped it down the heat vent in case I changed my mind, and stood there like, I can't believe I just did that. My MOBA pack whirred. The darker flocks flowed. Then came the horror, worse than I'd even imagined. See, my arm was about a mile down the heat vent. I was staggering around the Spiderhead looking for something, anything. In the end, here's how bad it got. I used a corner of the desk. What's death like? You're briefly unlimited. I sailed right out through the roof. And hovering above it, looking down, here was Rogan, checking his neck in the mirror. Here was Keith, squat thrusting in his underwear. Here was Ned Riley. It was B. Troper. It was Gail Orley, Stephen DeWitt, killers all bad, I guess, though in that instant I saw it differently. At birth they'd been charged by God with the responsibility of growing into total screw-ups. Had they chosen this? Was it their fault as they tumbled out of the womb? Had they aspired, covered in placental blood, to grow into harmers, dark forces, life-enders? The first holy instant of breath awareness, tiny hands clutching and unclutching, had been their fondest hope to render, via gun, knife, or brick, some innocent family bereft? No, and yet their crooked destinies had lain dormant within them, seeds awaiting water and light to bring forth the most violent, life-poisoning flowers, said water-light actually being the requisite combination of neurological tendencies and environmental activations that would transform us into Earth's murderers, foul us with the ultimate unwashable transgression. Wow, I thought, was there some verbaluse in that drip or what? But no, it was all me now. I got snagged, found myself stuck on a facility gutter, squatted there like an airy gargoyle. I was there, but also everywhere. I could see it all. A clump of leaves in the gutter beneath my see-through foot. Mom, poor Mom, at home in Rochester, scrubbing the shower, trying to cheer herself up via thin, hopeful humming. A deer near the dumpster, suddenly alert to my spectral presence. Mike Apple's mom, also in Rochester, Bodie, distraught checkmark, occupying a slender strip of Mike's bed. Rachel, below in small workroom 4, drawn to the one-way mirror by the sounds of my deaths. Amnesty and Verlaine rushing into the Spiderhead, Verlaine kneeling to begin CPR. Night was falling. Birds were singing. Birds were, it occurred to me to say, enacting a frantic celebration of day's end. They were manifesting as the Earth's bright-colored nerve endings, the sun's descent urging them into activity, filling them individually with life nectar then being passed into the world, out of each beak, in the form of that bird's distinctive song, which was in turn an accident of beak shape, throat shape, breast configuration, brain chemistry. Some birds blessed in voice, others cursed, some squawking, others rapturous. From somewhere, something kind asked, "Would you like to go back? It's completely up to you. Your body appears salvageable." No, I thought, no thanks. I've had enough. My only regret was Mom. Hope someday in some better place I'd get a chance to explain it to her. Maybe she'd be proud of me one last time after all these years. From across the woods, as if by common accord, birds left their trees and darted upward. I joined them, flew among them, did not recognize me as something apart from them. I was happy, so happy, because for the first time in years and forevermore, I had not killed and never would.